The grand conclave chamber of the Ralosian hegemony was a monument to the ages, a soaring cavern of sculpted bioluminescent crystal and polished gravestone that hummed with the barely contained energies of a thousand-sun empire. Tendrils of soft, shifting light from the central starwell pulsed across the assembled delegates, revealing the myriad forms of the hegemony's ruling elite. The multi-limbed Vascorian strategists, their chitinous carapaces gleaming with ceremonial oils. The ethereal, gas-enclosed Zalari, suspended within their shimmering personal fields. The earth-bound, stoic Gran, whose massive forms anchored the debate. But it was the Ralosian High Council, arrayed on the raised dais of obsidian, whose collective disquiet resonated most profoundly through the vast space. Elder Kalen, his ocular stalks retracting and extending in agitated rhythm, projected a single, stark image onto the colossal central holoscreen. A simple, unadorned designation, written in a stark, unfamiliar script, Sol 3. Beneath it, an equally alien term, humanity. A low thrum of unease rippled through the chamber, a cacophony of overlapping psionic whispers and guttural rumblings. For cycles, the discovery of this nascent species, barely past its gravitational confinement, had been a curiosity, a footnote in the hegemony's vast expansionary charts. Their initial forays into crude faster-than-light travel had been monitored, their territorial claims politely ignored as the hegemony annexed resource-rich systems bordering their nascent sphere. The incident in the Cygnus Vale, a regrettable, if strategically necessary, claim on a Class III energy nexus, had been deemed a minor affair, a standard assertion of hegemonic preeminence against an unaligned, unknown entity. Their scout fleet under Admiral Valor had encountered minimal resistance, a few primitive vessels easily neutralized, their occupants apprehended for study. The official report had categorized humanity as a species of moderate aggression, low technological sophistication, and predictable, if somewhat emotional, responses. That analysis now felt like a fragile, brittle thing, shattered by the chilling communication that had arrived just cycles ago, bypassing all known protocols, a single resonant frequency piercing the secure networks of the hegemony's central intelligence. "We acted with due diligence, Elder Kalen," asserted Counselor Zeth, a Ralosian of the mercantile caste, his voice smooth and resonant, though a faint tremor belied his composure. "The Cygnus Vale nexus was unutilized, and their presence there was purely exploratory. Our fleets merely asserted our claim. Their vessels were warned. Their resistance was unproductive." He paused, allowing his tendrils to twitch, a gesture of Ralosian dismissiveness. They were an unknown quantity, a species whose full capacity for reasoned discourse was yet to be determined. We presented them with an undeniable reality, our strength, our reach. Elder Kalen's visual stalk swiveled slowly towards Zeth, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the myriad anxieties of the conclave. "And what reality have they presented to us in return, Counselor? Not a diplomatic petition, not a plea for arbitration. A single laconic message, a declaration. You have transgressed against us. You will understand the consequence. We send one vessel." "One vessel, Counselor, to address the full might of the Ralosian hegemony." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications, twisting the fear of the unknown into a more profound, existential dread. The hegemony had never been challenged in such a manner. Empires warred with fleets, with legions, with strategic bombardments, not with a single ominous promise. Across the chamber, a Vascorian battle strategist, General Vorlok, slammed one of his jointed limbs onto the polished gravestone before him, the sound echoing sharply. "This is a feint, a bluff of unprecedented audacity. They seek to intimidate, to sow discord. Perhaps they possess some primitive stealth technology, a single, fast-attack craft designed to disrupt supply lines. Our intelligence on them, though limited, suggests a species still struggling with interstellar colonization, their energy signatures rudimentary. We should dispatch a punitive fleet, a full task force to their home system. Demonstrate the cost of such insolence. Erase this consequence before it truly manifests." His chitin rippled, a display of aggressive confidence that failed to entirely mask the tremor in his lower limbs. A Zalari luminary, its gaseous form coalescing into a more defined, agitated silhouette within its shimmering field, projected a series of complex mathematical probabilities onto the central screen. The patterns shifted, spiraling towards a disturbing singularity. The probability of a species, even a nascent one, attempting such a bluff against a known galactic power without some underlying asymmetrical advantage is sent. Statistically negligible, A synthesized voice resonated from its field, the words devoid of inflection, yet carrying an undeniable weight. Their communication lacks the markers of deception. It is direct, unflinching, and the energy signature detected accompanying the message. It is not a conventional FTL drive. It is a unique emanation, one our most advanced sensors cannot accurately categorize. It is vast. The final word resonated, not with fear, but with the cold, calculating dread of pure, unquantifiable data. Kalen's form seemed to shrink, absorbing the collective anxieties. Admiral Valor's report spoke of their unproductive resistance. He described their vessels as lacking heavy shielding, their weapons rudimentary kinetic projectiles. Yet he also noted their crews fought with a singular ferocity, a disregard for personal preservation that defied logical tactical analysis. They were primitive, yet they were resolute. He paused, allowing the implication to settle. And now this one vessel approaches. Its trajectory is unwavering. Its speed, though not yet at maximum FTL, suggests an engine efficiency far beyond what our initial scans predicted. It is not moving like a scout. It is not moving like a conventional warship. It moves with a singular, terrible purpose. Debate raged for cycles. Arguments of strategic imperative clashed with whispers of ancient prophecies concerning the rise of unforeseen children of the void. The Ralosian hegemony, forged from conquest and unified by the unwavering principle of hierarchical order, found itself grappling with an enigma that defied its very foundations. Their understanding of galactic power was based on demonstrable strength, on fleets, on resource control, on the efficient subjugation of lesser species. This humanity, with its quiet, unyielding declaration, was disrupting their entire cosmological framework. The very notion of a single vessel challenging their dominion was an insult, a profound philosophical affront. Yet, the lack of fear in the human message, the calm, almost clinical certainty, was more unsettling than any bluster. On the central screen, the projected trajectory of the inbound human vessel became ever more precise. It was large, undeniably. Initial visual data, still heavily interpolated, showed a silhouette unlike any known design within the hegemony. No sleek lines of a Vascorian cruiser, no layered defenses of a Grand Siege breaker. It was massive, blocky, almost monolithic, yet strangely elegant in its brutal simplicity. Its energy signature continued to defy categorization, a complex, shifting pattern that baffled the hegemony's foremost xenophysics specialists. The silence, when it fell upon the Grand Conclave, was not born of resolution, but of a creeping, unshakable terror. The arrogance of initial judgment had curdled into the bitter taste of profound uncertainty. The vastness of space, which the hegemony had considered its domain, now seemed to hold a shadow, a coming storm in the shape of a single, dangerous ship. Elder Kalen, his voice now a strained whisper, broke the silence. The vessel, its projected course is direct. It is not maneuvering for tactical advantage. It is not feinting towards our perimeter defenses. It is moving towards us, towards the heart of the hegemony, towards Rylo's prime. A collective gasp, a chorus of psionic shrieks, filled the chamber. To attack the capital world directly without even a preliminary engagement was an act of unthinkable, suicidal hubris, or of utterly boundless, terrifying power. The Ralosians considered their homeworld inviolable, protected by layers of orbital defense platforms, planetary shields, and the combined might of their standing fleets. No enemy had ever dared to approach Rylo's prime, until now. The days that followed were a blur of frantic activity and paralyzing indecision. The hegemony's vast military apparatus mobilized, its fleets deploying in defensive formations around Rylo's prime and its immediate strategic systems. Intelligence analysts pored over every scrap of data ever collected on humanity, desperate for a clue, a weakness, anything that could explain this audacious challenge. They found little beyond their initial, now thoroughly discredited, assessments. A species with surprising adaptability, a propensity for both immense cruelty and profound compassion within their own internal conflicts, and an almost pathological aversion to being underestimated. The attack on the Cygnus Vale nexus, which the hegemony had viewed as a minor territorial assertion, was now being reevaluated through the lens of human historical records, translated with increasing urgency. They discovered countless references to sovereignty, unprovoked aggression, and retribution. The human concept of an eye for an eye, though archaic, resonated with an ominous clarity. The inbound vessel, which human communications now identified simply as the architect, Maine, tained its unswerving trajectory. It broadcast no further messages, no threats, no demands. It simply came. Its sheer mass, now clearly resolved by advanced sensor arrays, was staggering. It wasn't merely a ship. It was a mobile construct, a colossal fusion of technology and purpose that dwarfed even the largest hegemony dreadnoughts. Its surface was obsidian dark, absorbing starlight, broken only by faint, pulsating veins of cerulean light that seemed to draw power from the very fabric of space. There were no visible weapon emplacements, no obvious thruster bells, only that immense, dark mass moving with an impossible grace. General Vorlok, his earlier bluster replaced by a grim determination, stood before the conclave once more. "We have deployed the 7th Fleet, reinforced by elements of the 3rd and 5th. They form a triple-layered defense around Rylo's prime. Planetary shields are at maximum. Our strategic weapons are primed. If this architect intends to engage, it will face the full might of the hegemony's martial power." His voice, though still strong, carried a note of desperation. Even he, a veteran of countless campaigns, found himself unnerved by the sheer audacity of the human approach. A single ship against an empire. Elder Kalen, observing the architect's projected path on the main screen, felt a cold dread seep into his very essence. "It is not altering course, General, not even a micron. It is as if our defenses are not even present, as if they are irrelevant." The words were a stark admission of profound vulnerability. The hegemony had always projected an image of invincible power, an impenetrable wall. This human vessel, by its very existence, was dismantling that illusion with chilling precision. The architect breached the outer defensive perimeter of Rylo's prime system with an unnerving silence. No warning shots, no evasive maneuvers. It simply passed through the energy fields of the hegemony's automated sentinels, its shields, if it even possessed them, absorbing the defensive fire without so much as a tremor. The energy readings from the human vessel remained an enigma, a complex, fluctuating symphony that defied all known scientific principles. It was not deflecting energy. It was incorporating it, rerouting it, or perhaps consuming it. Admiral Jathar, commander of the 7th Fleet, a seasoned Ralosian strategist whose entire career had been built on decisive engagements, transmitted a live feed to the conclave. His voice, usually calm and authoritative, was now laced with a raw edge of disbelief. "It's passing through us like a ghost. Our weapons are impacting its surface, but there is no visible damage, no energy dissipation. It merely absorbs." The conclave watched, horrified, as hegemony capital ships, bristling with weaponry, poured volley after volley of concentrated fire onto the architect. Plasma lances, kinetic accelerators, gravimetric torpedoes all impacted the obsidian surface, creating momentary flares of light, only to vanish without a trace. The architect remained utterly impervious, a dark, silent judgment moving inexorably towards its target. Then a new energy signature emanated from the architect. It wasn't an attack. It was a projection. A vast, intricate holographic field bloomed around the human vessel, surrounding it with a dynamic, three-dimensional representation of their shared history. It began with the initial Ralosian fleet entering the Cygnus Vale. It showed the human scout ships, not as aggressive combatants, but as scientific survey vessels, displaying clear territorial markers and diplomatic hailing frequencies. It showed the hegemony ships opening fire, the destruction of the human vessels, the capture of their crews. It played the final moments of the human crews, their terror, their defiance, their final, desperate calls for aid. It depicted the human colonies in the sector, their grief, their outrage. It was a narrative meticulously reconstructed, presented with an emotional weight that bypassed all rational defenses. The holograph then shifted, displaying an intricate crystalline structure growing from the devastated planetary surface of one of the human colony worlds. It was a complex orbital defense system, designed not for aggression, but for absolute, unyielding protection. Then the hologram showed the architect itself, not as a weapon of war, but as a mobile factory, a self-replicating construct, capable of terraforming worlds, building entire civilizations, or dismantling them with equal ease. Its purpose was not destruction, but transformation. Its revenge was not annihilation, but a forced confrontation with the consequences of arrogance. Elder Kalen felt a profound, sickening lurch within him. The hegemony's actions, which had been dismissed as minor infringements, were now laid bare, stark and unforgivable through the human lens. The destruction of their scout ships, the capture of their people, the violation of their territory, all were presented not as minor casualties of expansion, but as acts of profound moral transgression. The architect was not a weapon, it was a mirror, reflecting their own deeds back at them with chilling clarity. A new communication emanated from the architect. This time it was a voice, deep, resonant, and calm. It spoke in perfect, idiomatic Ralosian. "We are the representatives of humanity. You violated our sovereign space. You destroyed our vessels. You captured our people. You did so under the assumption of our weakness, our inconsequence. You misjudged us. This ship, the architect, is not here to destroy your worlds or to slaughter your people. It is here to ensure that such a transgression, born of arrogance and underestimation, can never occur again. We do not seek vengeance in kind. We seek education." The words reverberated through the conclave, cutting deeper than any plasma lance. Education. What did they mean by education? General Vorlok finally found his voice, a raw, primal roar. "This is madness. They are broadcasting propaganda. They cannot be allowed to approach Rylos Prime. Order a full system-wide bombardment. Activate the Nova cannons." But Elder Kalen, his ocular stalks fixed on the colossal, silent vessel that now hung ominously over the jewel of the hegemony, raised a trembling limb. "No, hold fire, we listen." A profound silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the hum of the ship's distant engines and the rapid, erratic beat of alien hearts. The architect was not accelerating. It was decelerating, slowly, deliberately. It positioned itself directly above Rylos Prime, a colossal, dark sentinel eclipsing a significant portion of the home sun. Then from the architect's underbelly, a shimmering, translucent column of energy descended. It was not destructive. It was scanning. The column enveloped the entirety of Rylos Prime, passing through its atmosphere, its planetary shields, its cities, its very geological strata. The energy signatures it emitted were unlike anything known, a complex symphony of frequencies that seemed to map the planet at a molecular level. Panic erupted within the conclave. Was this a prelude to annihilation? A slow, agonizing disintegration. The human voice returned, still calm, still resonant. "We are analyzing your world, your infrastructure, your military capacity, your energy grids, your planetary defenses. We are mapping every sensor, every weapon, every command nexus, not to destroy them, but to understand them, and then to render them inert." The Zalari luminary, its form now a frantic dance of agitated particles, projected new data onto the screen. "The energy column, it is not damaging. It is rewriting. It is altering the resonant frequency of every active energy system on Rylos Prime, not shutting them down, but making them incompatible with their design parameters. They are being reconfigured at a fundamental level." Chaos erupted in the chamber. The implications were horrifying. Not destruction, but neutralization. Not conquest, but disarmament. The hegemony's entire defensive infrastructure, its very ability to wage war, was being systematically dismantled, not by force, but by a subtle, incomprehensible alteration of its underlying physics. It was a surgical strike of unprecedented precision and terrifying philosophical depth. Humanity was not seeking to humble them with superior firepower, but to neuter their capacity for aggression. Elder Kalen watched, transfixed, as the reports flooded in. Orbital defense platforms, one by one, reported their weapon systems failing, their shields flickering, their thrusters unresponsive. Not destroyed, merely inoperable. Ground-based energy projectors, anti-air batteries, even personal combat suits all ceased to function. The planetary shield, the pride of Rylos Prime, simply faded, not under duress, but as if its very operating principles had been forgotten. The humans were not tearing down their house. They were removing its foundational stones. The human voice continued, now accompanied by a holographic projection from the architect itself, showing the internal schematics of a Ralosian energy coil, then the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in its molecular structure as it was rendered inert. "Your capacity for offensive action is being removed. Your defensive capabilities that might be used for aggression are being neutralized. We are not rendering you defenseless against existential threats, only against yourselves and against others." This is the first lesson. A wave of despair, profound and suffocating, swept through the conclave. The sheer, terrifying elegance of the human act was more devastating than any bombardment. Their pride, their martial spirit, their very identity as a dominant power was being systematically stripped away. This was not a battle they could fight. This was a redefinition of reality. After cycles of this methodical, terrifying process, the architect ceased its energy projection. Rylos Prime, though physically unharmed, was now utterly disarmed. Its weapons lay dormant, its shields inactive, its formidable military machine nothing more than inert metal and silent circuitry. The human voice returned, now with a subtly different tone, one of weary finality. Our people who were taken from us have been returned to their homes. They carry with them the memories of your transgression. And they carry a message, one we now deliver to you. The cost of underestimation is not always paid in blood. Sometimes it is paid in understanding. You will not threaten others again. You will not disregard the sovereignty of emerging species. And you will not underestimate humanity. The architect began to ascend, slowly, majestically, its obsidian mass lifting away from Rylo's prime. But as it began its ascent, a new, far more intricate projection bloomed around it, visible not just within the conclave chamber, but to every sentient being on Rylo's prime. It was a star chart, vast beyond comprehension, depicting not just the hegemony's known space, but immense, undiscovered sectors, regions of the galaxy where no Rylosian scout had ever ventured. And within those uncharted territories, intricate symbols pulsed, symbols of ancient, colossal structures, of energy signatures unlike any other. And then, a single, terrifying image, a vast, swirling vortex of dark matter, not a natural phenomenon, but a deliberate construction, draining entire star systems of their light, a construct of unimaginable scale and sinister purpose. The human voice, now imbued with a different kind of solemnity, spoke once more. The galaxy is vast, and you are not the sole arbiters of its destiny. There are forces at play, ancient and terrible, that transcend your understanding of power and conquest. The systems we disarmed were for your own protection, and for the protection of others against you. For there are threats that require unity, not division. Threats that make your petty squabbles seem like the squabbling of insects. The projected image zoomed in on one of the colossal ancient structures, an orbital ring so vast it encircled a star. Its purpose, the human voice explained, was a deep space sensor, designed by an unknown, long-vanished civilization to monitor the movements of the galactic dark matter anomaly. A warning system, left by those who understood the true scale of cosmic danger. And the humans, in their relentless pursuit of knowledge, had reactivated it. Our revenge, as you perceive it, the human voice concluded, is to prepare you, to awaken you to the true nature of this cosmos. The architect is not merely a vessel of disarmament. It is also a vessel of discovery. We have seen what lies beyond your limited perception, and what we have seen demands a united front. The galaxy is not merely a collection of resources to be exploited or territories to be conquered. It is a fragile ecosystem facing a profound, encroaching darkness. As the architect transitioned into FTL, leaving behind only the ghost of its energy signature and the chilling projections, the grand conclave chamber was plunged into a profound, aching silence. The fear of their own impotence was now overshadowed by a far greater, more terrifying realization. Humanity had not come for vengeance. They had come to deliver a cosmic indictment, and in doing so, had opened a terrifying window onto a future far more perilous than any they had ever imagined. The hegemony, in its arrogance, had focused on conquering nearby star systems, oblivious to the vast, ancient shadow slowly unfurling across the galactic arm. Elder Kalen finally lowered his trembling limb. His vision was no longer fixed on the departing human vessel, but on the chilling star chart still lingering, a phantom afterimage of the architect's final broadcast. The dark matter anomaly, the ancient megastructures, the silent, omnipresent warning. It was a revelation that shattered the very bedrock of Rylosian philosophy, their belief in their own supremacy, their understanding of galactic history. Humanity, the nascent species they had so casually dismissed, had brought them not war, but a brutal, humbling truth. They had been disarmed, not as an act of petty retribution, but as a forced preparation for a conflict far grander and more terrifying than any they could have conceived. The conclave began to stir, but not with anger or even fear of humanity. A different kind of fear, cold and existential, settled upon them. A Vascorian strategist, General Vorlok, who had advocated for punitive fleets, now sat slumped, his chitin dull, his multiple limbs slack. His warrior instincts, honed by generations of conflict, were useless against such an enemy. This wasn't a military problem, it was an ontological crisis. Counselor Zeth, who had championed the hegemony's expansion, now felt the hollowness of his past ambitions. Resources, territory, ease, power, they were meaningless in the face of such a cosmic scale of threat. He looked at the lingering image of the dark matter vortex, consuming stars, and felt the immense, suffocating insignificance of his entire civilization. The Zalari luminary, its form now a shimmering vortex of agitated thought, projected a final, desperate data burst. The reactivated sensor array it is broadcasting. A signal, Not from humanity, an ancient signal, a warning. It speaks of eradication protocols, of a slow, deliberate galactic cleansing. And it has been active for cycles. We were deaf. We were blind. The silence returned, deeper, heavier than before. Humanity had not merely disarmed them, they had stripped away their ignorance. Their revenge was a forced awakening, a violent wrenching of the hegemony from its self-absorbed stupor into a cold, terrifying reality. The architect had gone, but its message, its education, remained, an indelible scar on the Ralosian psyche. They had attacked the wrong species, yes. And in return, humanity had brought a dangerous ship, not to destroy them, but to save them in the most profoundly unsettling way imaginable. They had been taught a lesson about power, about humility, about the true nature of the cosmos. A lesson delivered not with fire and brimstone, but with the chilling precision of an architect dismantling illusions and building a foundation for a terrifying, unified future. The fear was now not of humanity, but of the vast, unknown darkness that humanity had so brutally illuminated. And within that fear, a nascent, desperate hope began to stir. The hope for alliance, for guidance, for survival in a galaxy far more perilous than they had ever dared to imagine.